Let's face it, most of us do not get to ride as much as we want. We all want to improve. There's so much that we want to practice, and it feels like we just don't get enough time in the saddle to get that level of improvement that we want to. But the truth is, there's a lot that we can do outside of our riding time that's going to really improve our riding. And in fact, I found that a lot of the things that I've done that have really made the biggest impact in my riding were the exercises that I did consistently outside of the saddle. It also makes it easier for the horse. When we can improve our riding before we even get on, then by the time that we're mounting up, we're already better, more balanced, and more aware of our bodies for our horse. In today's video, I'm going to share one practice that has made a really big difference for me, including some of the specific areas that I really have to work on in my own body to overcome some injuries that I've had, and just to become more symmetrical and even and better with my aids. Let me mount up and I'll tell you more about these exercises. No body is perfect. We have all had injuries, we have patterns, and we have habits that affect our movement and they affect our riding. They make us feel stiff in some places, they make us feel uneven, and trust me, our horse definitely picks up on all of those little patterns that we have. So I mentioned in the beginning of this video that there was a practice that had really helped me to improve some of these old patterns and really some asymmetries and some stiffness that I had, and really helped my riding in the past few years. And this practice was yoga. I only started doing yoga a few years ago, and it really has helped me to work through several of my kind of key things that I have to focus on in my own body. So I'm going to tell you about my experience and the key poses in yoga that have really helped me. And each of us is different. You might have different areas of your body that you have challenges with. But the great thing about a practice such as yoga is it's really a balanced approach to help us become more aware of our bodies, and it has poses that really help to focus on and open each area of the body. So I had two injuries that really affected me, that happened when I was young, and I never really worked through them, and I was holding compensatory movement patterns. So the one is on this leg, I had my calf muscle partially crushed, and it healed really tight, obviously. So I still have actually less range of motion in this ankle than I do in this one. But I had this going on, and then I'd also had an injury that affected my upper back. So I had a tendency to kind of roll forward, and I think you actually see the difference if you look back at some of my videos from like 2012. I almost hate to tell you to go into the archives, but if you go back and you look at some of those videos, you'll see how my riding has changed, and you're going to notice that I'm much more contracted in my calves, and part of that was because of the physical limitation, especially in this leg. But then also I tended to be more rolled forward because of the injury and still the pain that I would often have in my upper back. And I've always loved fitness. I do a lot of anything that's active, I love to do. And I got into running a few years ago. I've always ran, but I started running long distances. And I was running, really logging a lot of miles every week and doing some long races. And the running was great. It's something that I still do, but because I was doing so much of the running and really not focusing on much else, I really created some patterns of movement that actually made the injuries that I had more noticeable, and I totally took that into my riding. I was starting to feel some pain sometimes in my back after I would ride. I was starting to just feel stiff. I would feel uneven, and I knew that it was affecting me. And I was still riding a lot of horses. I was still riding at a very, I was still able to be effective, but I knew that I was not nearly as effective as I should have been. And sometimes I just didn't feel that good in my body. So I started the yoga practice, and there were a few kind of key movements and key poses that really helped me for these specific things. The first one was downward dog. And in downward dog, the idea is not to really try to push your heels down, but to let the weight start to drop through the heel as you're in that position, to lengthen the muscles along the back of the leg. And for me, it really helped to start to lengthen the calf muscles. I find that in riding, in order to ride well, there's often this feeling of we need to use our body with a little bit of tension. Sometimes in fitness circles, it's called positive tension. It's an idea where we're just keeping ourselves stable. For example, when we're riding, we want to think about allowing our weight to go to our heel. It's not that our legs are just totally floppy in the saddle, but we also don't want to be pushing into the heel and pushing our stirrups forward. And practicing the pose of downward dog, I found really helpful in getting that feeling of letting the weight go into my heel and having that feeling of being able to hold the body stable without being tense and without blocking movement. The other exercise, the other pose that was really helpful for me in opening my upper body was the movements where I would have my arms out to the side and I would think about just expanding forward through my chest. And there's several different poses that incorporate this type of movement, but feeling this openness in the chest without pulling the shoulders back and creating all of that tension in the back, but just feeling the rib cage open and expand. That was another exercise that really helped me a lot. And it helps a lot of people that struggle with upper body, which, let's face it, a lot of work that we do nowadays, spending time on the computer, doing anything where we're sitting at a desk, it really starts to roll our shoulders forward, collapse our chest in, and we have to counter that with exercises that, when we go to riding, can make it easier to have this aligned posture. The other thing that's really helped me is learning to fold at my hip joints. And this is huge for all of our riding, but for me, it became really evident when I would start to jump bigger fences. I would start to round too much in my upper back instead of folding cleanly at my hip. One of the exercises that's really nice for feeling this fold at the hip is the yoga position of ragdoll. And this is where you stand, beginning with knees bent, and you just cross your arms and you allow your weight to hang and really feel that deep fold at the hip. I find it a very relaxing posture, and it helps with feeling how your back can be lengthened and your back can be soft, and the movement just happens at the hip joint. There are many different things that we can do outside of the saddle to improve the time that we have with our horse. And in fact, I think it's those consistent practices that we have both physically and also in our mindset throughout daily life that really make the biggest difference when we do come to our horse. So now I would love to hear from you. What is one area of your body that you're aware of? Maybe it's a little sore, or you feel a little bit stiff there, or you know that you're uneven somewhere. Put that in the comments below. And I would love to hear, for those of you that do have a regular practice, whether it's yoga or it's something else that you do, what is it that really helps you with your riding? We have a new course coming up, Yoga for Riders with Heidi Blackman, and we're going to have some free classes coming up really soon from the course. I would love to have you join us in those classes. It's a great way to kick off the new year and actually this time, the new decade. So go ahead and put a comment down below, and then make sure you click the link to sign up and join us in the free classes from Yoga for Riders.